So, we've all had time to play the demo. We've ran through it probably about 50 times each by now. And so, you've landed on this video, so I can only assume you are prepared for the spoilers that are coming in this video, because we're going to be talking about the ending of the demo. I will warn you now, this video is going to contain some big spoilers. So in this video, we're only talking about the demo itself, nothing outside of that or found outside of that. We'll also talk briefly about the Sounds of Nightmares, but that's your warning. Have at it. So again, there's a massive moment at the end of the demo, and it's really highlighted throughout the experience. I think one of the biggest takeaways you have from the demo is that ending, and again, it's perfect. It is an absolute perfect representation of, I believe, the work of Supermassive Games and Bandai, and how they're leaving that suspense on the edge all the way through. And I feel like this again is going to be an example of such thing. Anyway, for those that don't know, or if you aren't subscribed yet, my name is It's Just George, and of course I do videos on Little Nightmares, and I've done it for a long time now, as my upload history can attest to. If you do enjoy Little Nightmares videos, theories, things like that, any kind of newsy sort of things, then make sure to hit subscribe, hype the video, do all the usual YouTube-y malarkey. It really helps the channel and it helps me in the future, so I would greatly appreciate it if you did that. Again, helps the channel, not at myself. But anyway, shameless self-promotion out of the way, I want to talk about the moment, and of course I want to highlight some key things before we go into talking about that moment, because the key things are very, as the name suggests, key. The first thing, of course, is the beginning of the demo, where we see the iconic camera pan into the object that's at focus, and in this case the mirror. Something interesting about this is that the shot is highlighting a few objects in the scene, and number one, we can see one on the left. Near the floor you can find packages, and this isn't the first time we've seen packages like this. We've seen a similar sort of set dress in objects that we see in Little Nightmares 2. Think of the achievement in Little Nightmares 2 as well. It's a similar sort of deal there. We know this is sort of carried on throughout Little Nightmares 3, because there was a hint in the Carnival trailer about this as well. And of course, we can see on the right side a very interesting object. Now, at first, it probably would be passed as just set decoration, and again, you could be forgiven for thinking that, but I think it's a little bit more interesting than that. As you don't know what cassettes are, they're a very old version of media that you would put like as in like a tape player and things like that, and it's very similar to how the Sounds of Nightmares is shown. Now, the cassette tapes are interesting, and I know they're old tapes, yada yada yada, but what if I told you they might hold more of a connection than you actually think, just by this object being in the scene? And of course, the Sounds of Nightmares is that connection. And as we know, during the Sounds of Nightmares, Otto was obsessed with getting into the nowhere. And we got to pretty much the point with the end of the Sounds of Nightmares where Otto knew, and his obsession with the nowhere and the ferryman would lead him down a very dark path. And a lot of the exchange between the ferryman and Otto was very cryptic, and it was more towards the end. But more importantly, every time Otto had a session with Noon, that was always recorded. It was always recorded in tape, in cassette format. We know this because the way the audio is presented, it does the old tape player effect. Press the play button and you hear all the rewinding and things like that. So it's a very good little connection there without actually trying. So aside from the cassette tapes, which are important, something to add to this is the reflection we see through the mirror. Now, the mirror seems to be showing a well-kept environment and a well-kept sort of window with some decorative flowers, some well-kept area, and it's obviously cared for. Something we rarely see in the nowhere. Now, could this be another indication of seeing the counties from the perspective of the nowhere? Better yet, are we seeing the goal that Lo has set himself and where he wants to escape to from the nowhere? Is this what he actually scribbles on his map? Is it something that he's seen in his dreams, or the moments where he's in his nightmares with the nowhere and things like that? So of course, that's what I wanted to highlight. Now, with this theory, that is a key bit of information, because as we come to the end of the demo, we have our final confrontation with the monster baby, and she picks up Lo and Alone and drops them into a void, prompting Lo to wake up from his nightmare. But this is where it gets interesting. Not only is it the perspective of Lo, because even if you play as alone, you get Lo's perspective. Either Supermassive Games and Bandai are going to put a fast one on us and the scene is out of sequence, or it could be a flashback. Now, I'm not very fond of the flashback idea, but it kind of does hold a little bit of credibility, especially on how it's presented, and we don't know exactly where the switch is happening. But could it be Lo is waking up in the counties? Now, I will say it again, if you haven't seen The Sounds of Nightmares, please do. It's very important. There's lots of little details in there. And also, listen out for the credits of Chapter 5, because yours truly helped write an episode for it. And it's probably the best thing I've ever done, if I'm honest. But more importantly, and to the point, The Sounds of Nightmares holds lots and lots of information, and especially about Otto. The Sounds of Nightmares has some really interesting and important bits in it about Otto, the ferryman, and the counties. Again, in short, the counties, if you don't know or haven't seen The Sounds of Nightmares, the counties is the place outside of the nowhere where the children come from. Think of that as like the real world, if you will. This is also backed up by the fact that Lo doesn't actually have his mask on. Now, this is interesting because I think without the mask, we're seeing the boy as he is, being watched by the doctors in the counties. Now, the mask is used as a way to hide himself in the nowhere, but why would Lo directly hide his identity in the nowhere? This must mean he's some sort of key person going forward. Now, again, is he key to someone like the ferryman, or is it key as if someone is after him? We know that people do disguise themselves in the nowhere. I mean, look at Alone, look at Mono. I think Six is probably the only one that sort of doesn't do it. And of course, Runaway Kid. Those are the only two that don't really hide themselves within the world. I mean, Six does have a hood up, but the Runaway Kid is a Runaway Kid that is just out in the open for him. So I think it's very interesting that that scene is taking place without his mask. Again, reaffirming my theory there. I believe this is the counties, or at least a flashback of the counties. But of course, as we see him wake up from his nightmare in the nowhere with the monster baby, he starts getting up, looking around his surroundings, and the place must seem familiar to him, because with the way he responds, it's sort of like it's safe to say it's his home in some regard. And I think the drawings on the bed that he made are related and similar to a lot of the scribbles that we see in the Nowhere and the Little Nightmares worlds. We won't know a lot of detail till we can get a good look at it. Now, Lo becomes startled by a noise coming from the hallway. It's a bit of a kerfuffle noise, if you will. It's a lot of thudding and bashing through, and he goes to inspect it. Now, interestingly, the bars are broken on the door, so it's easily escapable in some manner, and it's again possible to escape at any point. So Lo chooses not to, interestingly enough, thus furthering our theory that it is a type of home. Now, we know the counties aren't particularly great at looking after the children, especially under the care of people like Otto. Lo looks up after seeing who's coming. He runs under the bed as he fears who's coming and hides from this person or creature. As the camera pans away, we see a creature in the shadows, or a person in the shadows. So what or who is that? Now, this is where the theory comes in. Now, I would say if we were in the Nowhere and this was some kind of twisted version of the counties they mustered up for Lo, I would say we would be looking at our first glimpse of the ferryman. But I don't think we're in the Nowhere. And I really think who we're looking at is either Otto or someone who could be affiliated with Otto. So someone in the same line of work as Otto. I don't know if they're going to close that gap completely with Otto as a connection. I don't feel like they would, but it is a possibility. But it could be a colleague of Otto or Otto himself. Now, that would be really fun and really interesting, especially with the next season of The Sounds of Nightmares coming. And I wonder if it would tailor into that at all, or maybe this will now be another spin-off of a different story. But again, it would really be interesting to see if Otto was in the game. Now, again, it's easy to say it would be Otto because that's the instant connection. But everything is sort of pointing towards Otto. But I do feel like it's not going to be so much Otto, but it's going to be someone within his workspace. It's going to be someone that Otto possibly knows, or someone we've been lightly introduced to before. but I think making Otto this character would kind of be against the build-up of the Sounds of Nightmares originally. But the whole point of the Sounds of Nightmares, it was there to drive your interpretation and imagination of Otto and how he is presented and how he looks. And I feel like if they answer that, that's kind of ruining the point of the audio series, if you will. Again, could totally be wrong in that regard, could absolutely be Otto. Again, as a fan, I would be all for it, but I really do think they want to leave a bit more breadcrumbs than that. So what do you think? Now, I have the theory, and I'm very certain that I believe it is going to be either Otto or someone related to Otto. But let me know what you think. Again, I am really loving the idea of it being related to Otto, but I just don't feel like it would be Otto. Again, I feel like it would be someone in that world of Otto. It may be someone in the counties that we're going to have a little bit more in-depth on, but I do think that there is some kind of maybe breadcrumb that we can follow to actually link this person. And who knows, tinfoil hat, maybe it's Dr. No. But yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love doing videos like this where we talk about little topics and go off on tangents and theories and things. So again, make sure you hit subscribe, like, do all the usual stuff. Leave hype if you can. It's a new feature. I'm not fully to grips with hype, so again, do as you must if you can. That'd be great. I appreciate it. But again, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, do all that kind of usual YouTubey thing. And again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know if you think this theory is bogus. Let me know if you have your own theory. Let me know if there's something you want me to cover. Again, we have got lots of stuff planned for Little Nightmares 3, and now the demo is out, we have even more content to cover. So with that being said, have a lovely morning, day or night wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next Little Nightmares theory video.